The boy and the girl were immediately seized upon by some big black thing, swirling among them in a black cape. "Let us be!" shouted the boy. But all they heard was a sinister laugh as the cape slowed its flowing and soon rested around a dark goblin. With a calculating eye, the goblin asked, "Have you come to steal my beautiful obsidian?" "Well, no one gets out of the forest alive with my obsidian. It's my obsession." The girl defended, "Of course, we never steal anyone's prized possession, and if you'd like, we have this crown to offer if you're so inclined to have it." The boy slowed her hand as she stretched the crown toward the hideous goblin. Then he pulled his hand away as he understood his beloved's giving heart. The goblin looked taken aback as he said, "Well, no one's ever offered me anything, so I will give you one of my obsidian pieces with a piece of advice probably no other goblin will ever offer you." He pulled out a shiny black-shaped obsidian rose and explained, "You must know this. Love expands like a flower." The boy and the girl, who had so recently feared being without their precious crown, looked at each other and laughed as they repeated, "A goblin is telling us love expands like a flower?" The goblin replaced his calculating eye as he dismissed them, saying, "Now be on with you, and thank you for your kindness." And they left with the jet black obsidian, which is gem number 8. Love expands like a flower. Think of a simple rose. It starts as a bud, bursting with potential, not quite beautiful yet, but because you see what it will be, it is already wonderful. Then it opens a bit more and you think it's just right. Then it opens even more and you now believe it's perfect. Then somehow it opens more again and you think it can't possibly get any better or more beautiful, until it does. And it opened so wide and had so many petals you didn't know could be nestled in there. Love is like that flower. Our ability to love expands in practiced time. Love is always there, like the petals in waiting. You don't receive love from someone. You recognize it in yourself, already full of love. Love is one-sided. You have it because you accept it. You already are love if you allow it. Real love is fully accepting with no goals, no strings attached. Love is opened up, expanded like the rose. And then you benefit all around you because it spills out of you. Your spouse doesn't give you love. If that were the case, then your spouse would have control over your emotions. They can tell you all day they love you, but you may simply not receive it. It hasn't opened within you. If you say you don't receive love, it's your own problem if it's already inside you. As a result, some people may never access your love stored within. Some of us may think we aren't loving enough or have been accused as such, but that's not in our control to measure the love that someone feels from us. And maybe we think love means having a greater capacity than we do. It feels like we can never generate enough. But maybe love doesn't need to run as deep as we think for it to count. It can be enough as it is. The rose opened to an adequate amount, a sustainable amount that you let loose. Love is connecting on the level of psychological, verbal, emotional, social, spiritual, intellectual, and physical. But that's for each of you to determine in a relationship. What one spouse may think is enough of such connecting, the other spouse thinks is half of what they want. In fact, I think this is true of most marriages. One spouse thinks the love is adequate and the other doesn't. But if you are opening up your love, it is the right amount. If we are to be like Jesus Christ, we learn to love without condition. This can be hard. He completely frustrates me, and I love him. If you can practice getting into a space of unconditionally loving, you're going to upset me and I perceive you making me feel less than, but nevertheless, I still love you. Sometimes it truly feels like learning to love the enemy. 1 Corinthians 13 lists the virtues of love. Love is patient, kind, doesn't envy, doesn't boast, isn't proud, doesn't dishonor others, isn't self-seeking, though you be sure to get adequate self-care, is not easily angered, keeps no record of wrongs, rejoices in the truth, protects, trusts, hopes, perseveres. Remember, you don't have love for your spouse. You are love. It's already inside you, and it reaches to them. So it's really about becoming love. Where it is you find a weakness in them, it also exists somewhere in you and is a strength at some point. For example, if you feel they aren't loving you enough, where are you not loving yourself enough? And one step further, where are you not understanding godly love within you? So once becoming love becomes more normal, you recognize a foundation of love, but it may not be quite the romantic love we expect in marriage. We can break down love into 3 parts: eros, romantic love; philia, brotherly love; and agape, God's divine love or unconditional love. So agape and philia love may result from practicing becoming unconditional love that spills from you. But what of eros, the romantic love? We break this romantic love into eros and thanatos love. Eros is drive of life, creativity, sexuality, self-satisfaction, and species preservation. Thanatos is conversely aggression, violence, and death. Before you get too concerned, when we have both in marriage, it creates a tension. This is where the possibility of passion exists, its opposites attracting in action. It's what makes marriage unique. If we define love as a combining of commitment, intimacy, knowing and being known, and passion, passion is born of quality time and experience together, which, if that isn't working to build passion, is because of a lack of safety, which stems back to a lack of intimacy, of truly knowing and being knowable, which can take an uncomfortable amount of openness. It means really paying attention to your true self and reaching inside of you for truth. What do you really feel for yourself? What do you really feel for your spouse, assuming love already exists inside you, planted by our heavenly parents? True love can feel small at first, though potentially deep, a sprouting seed that feels intense with a possibility of growth. Side note, if you'll remember from my Love Zone Marriage 11 class on connecting intimately, we have to take off the brakes and engage the accelerator to create passion. For love to become more than philia, or that brotherly love, or agape, God's unconditional love, the love that sets us apart from loving dear family members and good neighbors, we may need more than the perceived love to feel turned on. As a majority of females are lower desire, females often need to be convinced and talked into sexual intimacy, so it's not fair to say that increasing love equals increasing desire for sexual connection. So if you were in a place of deciding to stay in a marriage or to leave, considering we are practicing becoming love, if you were to leave your spouse, it would be in a place of full love for yourself and him. And if you decided you were not loving yourself and him by staying, that would be correct for you to leave. If you can't say that would be the case, leaving from full love, where do you need to work on you? We can teach our spouse how to love us better, which is to really say that is his part in helping us access love already within us. It's up to him to decide to do as we teach, and if he doesn't, we still love him anyway. Maybe not as passionately, but as a form of charity. But chances are good if he has the slightest idea of how you want to be treated, he'll try to do it more, even if it isn't natural. Jesus loved people and taught them. We can do both. And same for your spouse. He can tell me how to bring out his love better, too. Jennifer Van Leesen Fife, marriage and sex expert, says, over time, we get expanded capacity to love whatever is. Our love can become more exposed, more practiced. So, how can we love better? In the book Wired for Love, Stan Tatkin outlines 10 points of how a couple can really be there for each other. I issue the caveat that differentiation in marriage says we need to be our own people, so that when we come together, the combining of two people makes a synergistic result. Here are Tatkin's 10 points. Wired for Love. First point, create a couple bubble. A safe zone where the relationship is always first. This place provides safety and protection. 2. Recognize your primitives and ambassadors. In our brain, this is the warring versus the loving brain, the defensive versus the proactive. Men are wired more for protection, the primitives, and women for connection, which would be more ambassadors. So the primitives can work against us and the ambassadors work for us. And a way that we can increase our ambassadors in our interactions is to notice the nuances in our speaking that send messages, even just a small fluctuation in the things we say. The third point, know if you are secure, an island, or a wave. Islands like solitude. This is me. But they might need help finding themselves. Waves come and go, back and forth, somewhat emotionally erratic. And it's helpful for both kinds to spend time around others who will anchor you. The anchors are the secure people who are unapologetically themselves, and they help others feel secure. But in the end, we don't try to change each other, whether we're an island or a wave or an anchor, but we do help. The fourth point, become experts on each other. Know each other's 3 or 4 vulnerabilities, how to counter them, and the 3 or 4 things that really work for them. You can help be their regulator. What can only we do as a marriage partner? Sometimes we think that we have maybe 100 vulnerabilities, but when it comes down to it, we just cycle around and around to 3 or 4. So know what those things are. And then know how to brighten, move, charm, and enamor each other, as only you can do. Fifth point, have a launching and a landing. The experts say that couples with a night and morning routine are happier. And this means you help put each other to bed or to greet each other in the morning and to have physical contact, like to snuggle and say words to each other that are comforting. And you do this even if you don't sleep at the same time. That if we have a launching and a landing together, no matter our sleep schedules, we're going to be happier. The sixth point is have a mind to know mine. You know each other in a simple glance or a body movement. When there's information to be shared or something that you need help with, you come to each other first. You are each other's go-to. 7. Be wary of thirds. Other family members, friends, hobbies, or work can be a third. A primitive third, remember this is the slower, lower thinking brain, can pull away from the helpful ambassadors, the good helpers in our brain. So we need to recognize the thirds in our life. A primitive third is more relaxing to an island than being with their spouse. Primitive meaning pulling away. And waves may find a third that pulls them from their island. So thirds unmanaged become hated. A third will. Think about extra things like you're always watching sports. That might be an unmanaged third that becomes hated. The 8th point, fight smart. Learn to wrestle. They say that those who can rough and tumble fare better in marriage than those who have never learned to be aggressive. So we can rewire the dumb vagus to be a smart vagus. So stop talking if the dumb is winning. Default to the smart. We want to be able to wrestle and fight well. The 9th point, love up close. And for this point, Tatkin advises us to learn to gaze into each other's eyes. It's like with a little baby. You hold them close and you love them up close. So we want to keep love up close. Let those helpful ambassadors smile. The last point, touch 10 minutes a day for a healthier life. We all need 10 minutes minimum of physical contact to connect better and make us happier. And that's been proven over and over. These 10 points all support that when the king and queen are happy, all is well across the land. But what if one of you in the couple doesn't do these things well or is unwilling to try? What if one of you won't create the safety for a couple bubble, uses primitives over ambassadors too often, becomes extreme in their island or wave tendencies, doesn't want to be an expert on you, doesn't care about your owner's manual, doesn't agree launchings and landings are important, doesn't care to know your mind, invites thirds unwittingly and unabashedly, won't fight smart,
won't love up close, or doesn't see the value in daily touching. This is where the differentiation theory of being your own person crosses the attachment theory of having a primary attachment figure. If your spouse or you is unwilling to work on moving closer to the other, then you work on you. Either process whatever gets in your way from connecting, or take matters into your own hands of fulfilling your needs and desires. For example, your spouse isn't safe in that they put you down often. You learn to be good with yourself. You can't depend on their support, so you reach inside yourself and upward toward God. You find others who can help you, wise people outside the marriage who are unbiased. We really don't have to struggle alone in relationship. Decide if this is really the relationship you want to stay in. Some people really are unwilling to change or improve, and that's when we decide if this is manageable. But as I see it, if God wants us together and we are somewhat trying, with patience and perseverance, our marriage can become something wonderful. And I've seen it over and over, including in my own marriage. So think on this list of 10 points. How could you better apply them? If you could pick one of them to work on, which would you choose? This life is all about small changes, little by little, sometimes big by big, but the little ones seem to make better habits. I want you to think for a moment of potential kinship, camaraderie, understanding, of being a blessing to each other in marriage, of feeling lucky to be married to the one you share this life with. Even if they don't seem like that person right now, remember, what you focus on grows. Would this be how God intended marriage? Like the funnest sleepover you could ever imagine, ever expanding, never ending? Remember that love, like that expanding flower, has capacity to give and experience increase, the merging and melding of your combined union to bliss. And ultimately, know that God is the potter of you, the flowers. Isaiah 64:8 says, "O Lord, you are our Father. We are the clay, you are the potter. We are all the work of your hand." Now for a date and dessert idea. Go visit a professional garden or a nice park. Get some professional pictures of you two while you're there. And for a dessert, make some mud. Yes, mud. Mix together prepared chocolate pudding, an equal amount of whipped topping, and crushed Oreos to your liking. Refrigerate a few hours. Garnish with gummy worms.